So what I'd like to do is to start with first is, Ravi, if you wouldn't mind, could you give us a little bit of a potted history of Finger Vein and where it's come from, please?
Sure, Andy. So Finger Vein technology originated about 15 or 20 years ago in Japan. It was actually came out of our medical R&D labs. And basically, we were able to identify the use of the vein as a biometric. And it was originally commercialized for ATMs in Japan. We were in a race against another competitor, and we have now, majority market share. Since that time, we've incubated the technology into a number of formats. And brought that outside Japan into North America, Northern Europe, Southern Europe, and obviously Eastern Europe. So that has taken many different formats. So that's roughly with the technology. We've taken it away from just selling straightforward components, but into the solution space. So we offer B2B solutions with people like Barclays and so on, and B2C solutions, which we're evolving into in this current space, for example, with Fingo.
Good, Ravi, thank you very much. So, as you mentioned, Fingo, Simon, I wonder if I could ask you to talk a little bit about what you first thought when you saw vein biometrics for the first time when you joined Fingo, and also why you think biometrics is important.
Sure. My first engagement with Fingo goes back to a project in WorldPay headquarters with Visa Europe Collabs, and this product, FingerPay, was put in the canteen at the WorldPay headquarters to test for buying coffees. And my first interaction was seeing the research debrief and the feedback from people using VeinID in this kind of completely novel way. And they all loved it. So hence I joined the company, and here I am. Good.
So obviously you were using it, or it's been used in that instance as a device to make a payment. And actually, as we look, both yourselves and also we have Shamit here who's looking at corporate payments. So why do you think Finger Vein offers some benefits over other types of biometric in that space?
At the start of the business, we researched all of the other biometrics that are out there. We needed something that was easy to use, that was highly secure in terms of encrypting the biometric, reassuring users and merchants, and something that was where we could scale up and get a large population of people on the same database of users to enable a kind of open scheme. And no other biometrics able to do that. And over the last, I would say, 5 years, lots of discussion on other biometrics, whether it's face or print. Mostly when the market's tried it and it hasn't worked, and then they tried Finger Vein. So we've chosen it because of high security, reliability, and usability, and we've proved that and refined and developed it over 5 years.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Simon. Victoria, obviously you've been working with some of our customers, and I think several of our customers have tried something else before they've arrived at Finger Vein. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what took place on that journey for them and why they decided fingerprint or facial wasn't really going to work for them and Finger Vein does.
Thank you very much. Our company had been working in identification business in different aspects for more than 10 years. Mostly we were involved in plastic cards manufacturing production for ID Sphere, discount cards, bank cards, etc. 5 years ago, we decided to check and think over about biometric readers and identification and verification of users using other technologies. And 3 years ago, we started checking different options: fingerprint, optical and LED readers, facial recognition, voice recognition, etc. Our customers requested something reliable and something really working in massive use. Finally, we chose Hitachi and started to took together with Kimaldi Electronics, which is a Spanish partner of us, and finally became even distributor of Hitachi in Russia. What we revealed? We revealed that finger vein is a very interesting and unique factor of biometric verification. It's fully protected from fraud, and also, any criminal activities. You cannot get any. It's very hard to get finger vein parting, and reality showed that voice recognition, facial recognition had another. Companies and banks dealing with that had another negative experience sometimes. The first big project we managed to start was Beeline. Beeline is the biggest mobile operator in Russia. It's about 9,000 workers, about 3,000 mobile shops all over the country. And you have to understand that in Russia, it's an absolutely different story. We have 11 time zones. We have huge territory. And Beeline was not a company with one information and digital and security system. There were more than 700 different formats and standards and information systems within the company. Because from the very beginning, it was combined of 3 different companies we joined together some years ago. Finally, it was a really difficult story because different standards, no internet web connection in all the places, like remote settlements and cities. And finally, like 3,900 sessions at once, we had to combine in one system. And trying and testing other systems were not workable. Some biometric systems have processor controllers, which is limiting number of users and number of partners. Also, it makes server infrastructure very big and not. It's very hard to combine a huge number of users in one system. Another point was so that there were fraud cases, for example, with fingerprint. In some places, in some shops, we really revealed it, and it was really negative. And Beeline, finally, what we managed to achieve, we managed to reduce time of service in shops to up to 30%, check release 2 seconds only, 1 second operation of authorization of any user, and also 3 minutes of data collection all over the corporation. So this result managed to reduce costs and return of investment. It's very hard to calculate right now, but COVID story shows that Beeline was the only company which managed to pass through this very hard period in better condition than other competitors.
Thank you, Vika. That's really interesting, and I think it's the fact that Beeline have embraced the technology and are using it in so many diverse ways is interesting. So, Shamit, from your point of view, when you first started looking at biometrics as a potential method of authenticating people, was it fraud that was your driver, or fraud prevention rather than actually helping it?
Yeah.
Or was it another reason that you thought biometrics offered something?
It was a couple of reasons. It was fraud prevention, definitely one of the major ideas for coming into biometrics. Also, there's a balance between like security and usability. We'd seen Barclays in the industry had seen a lot of fraud around like sharing and stealing pins and passwords. So we wanted to be a core bank where we wanted to give like the highest security, but also not trying to. We had a lot of clients who were saying that you are compromising security, compromising usability with security. So we wanted to get a fine balance of that, and we thought biometrics was a way to go. A few years back, we did like an RFP or a review of the different types of biometrics in the market, and for our business case. So the business case that we have is we have a couple thousand corporate clients who use our internet banking channels, and they want to make sure that their money is safe when they make payments. The payments are safe, And we thought, we realized that we judged that the fact that the finger vein solution was probably the best, and definitely is the best solution that we put in place. So we've been in the market for maybe 5 years now, and we've done evolution with Hitachi. So we launched the first device, I think 3-4 years ago. We've now moved on. We've now, with a co-collaboration with Hitachi, we've designed and launched a new version of the biometric device. And so far it's been great. Clients are very happy with the solution. Easy to use, like I said. A lot of corporate clients as well, they come to us and say they multi-bank with other banks. And every other bank has a different type of security device that uses pins and passwords. So they were struggling to keep up with the many passwords they need to remember. With the finger vein device, it was very simple. So that was really good. And also the fact that it was a differential in the marketplace for us a few years ago, which has worked out well for us. And client feedback so far has been very positive. So yeah, very happy.
So I don't know if you can talk about this, but what have you seen? You said one of the main aspects was fraud. What have you seen from a fraud point of view compared to what you were doing previously?
Well, we haven't seen, as a corporate bank, any account takeover or malicious account takeover for a couple of years now. And definitely the finger vein device has helped tremendously in curbing that threat. In fact, now we've seen a shift with the criminals and fraudsters moving to APP type scams, because hopefully they've realized that it's very hard to penetrate our Barclays systems. So that's been really good. Also, the fact that as we grow the number of users using the finger vein device within Barclays, the feedback has been very positive, works very well. The enrollment registrations have been very good as well. And the ongoing usage has been very good as well. So it's pretty good. I think the only bit of feedback I've heard, which I think is we'll probably cover later on, is we had a little time trying to get our clients to understand what the word finger vein means. So because it's such a niche product, I think everyone, because of smartphones and other other kind of security devices and biometrics, they understand fingerprint, they understand voice and iris. The word finger vein needs some time to interpret and get understood by clients, but we're getting there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. Simon, I don't know whether you've seen that, as you're obviously out there working with lots of different customers.
Yeah.
Whether you've seen some challenges with finger vein just as a concept for people.
I mean, every day, every interaction, people haven't heard of it at all. They revert to fingerprint, and it takes some time to explain. Once you do explain, and once you are clear that it's the internal vein pattern, you do get a level of excitement. Actually, you're teaching something they didn't know, first of all. So that's a good way to explain the conversation. And then you the more you get into it, the more people are reassured, and they go that it's magic. It works really well. Why didn't I know about it before? And Ravi and I have talked about that over the years. One little anecdote: we attended a Money 2020 show in Europe, and we did a panel. And at the beginning of the panel, we took a poll of how many people and which biometrics people had heard of. And finger vein was about fourth, I think, and that's within a financial services / banking community. We then presented for half an hour and then explained it. And once people got over that awareness and understanding of what it was, they could really see the benefit in it. So there's some way to go to communicate the difference and the value that finger vein has versus other biometrics. But once, as Samit was saying, once you get through that education job, actually people are really interested and want to engage with it.
Yeah. So I think, Ravi, can I bring you back in here? I think it would be interesting for you to talk a little bit about how the marketplace has evolved and changed, and if you think we're starting to see more interesting finger vein, as I think, as both Shamit and Simon have said, it's still the sort of mysterious cousin of the biometric world.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, Andy, where we started and where we are today is vastly different. Where we began was, Hitachi is a brilliant technology company. We're an awesome engineering company. Our marketing is somewhat in stealth. So we sort of look at the market, bring new technology and try and marry the two. Now, there are many established players out there like Print, Face and so on who we've had to compete against. And it's creating that sort of awareness in the marketplace, that thought leadership. And we do it by not shouting about it. We do it with the quality of our product, with the usability of our product. And in this case, with Shani, Simon and with Vika, they've all said, it's a highly usable product. And people understand, they keep mistaking it. Is this a fingerprint reader or is it a finger vein reader? And you explain vein and they say, okay, I get that. Why is this better? Well, this is much more usable. This is much more secure, and it does, an array of functionality which sits head and shoulders above the rest. So as we've evolved, both in the technology space, we've evolved in our communication to the market, growing upon great examples like, Barclays, Societe Generale, FingoPay, and so on, and using that to push the message of Finger Vein out there into the environment. 10 years ago, nobody had heard of Finger Vein in Europe. Now it's on most dominant, quadrants in terms of which biometrics place where. And Finger Vein is the fastest growing technology in terms of biometric space at the moment. So we're quite proud of that, and we're quite proud of our use cases. It's just, we have a lot to go in this journey. I think this is the very onset of it.
Yeah, I also think there's an interesting point you raised there in the fact that Hitachi are the only people or one of very few offering any type of technology based on vascular biometrics, whereas face, fingerprint, there's lots of different technologies around in that space and of hugely varying qualities.
Yeah, no, you're right, Andy. It is our go-to-market is quite different to the rest of the, let's say people providing biometrics. Either people are providing point solutions, which are very specific, like national ID and so on, or people are providing just components to do specific jobs to the mass market. What we've brought is, technology pre-packed and packed, both hardware, software, and service. So we can look at entering the market, for example, corporate transaction signing or physical access control, where we can enter anchor references and scale our business up and scale that deployment of the technology. And we are very different as a company, enabling to do, the whole package end to end, because we put our name to it and we say, look, this is a Hitachi solution. It is not just we're an SI and we provide bits and pieces. We do the whole, from the requirements to the delivery to the support and onwards. And that's where we get the trust and the expansion.
Good. Thank you, Ravi. Vika, for your point of view, you're obviously in a country that seems to be keen and wanting to push biometrics and embrace the biometric technology. Why did you first select Hitachi and the VeinID products? What sort of drew you rather than face and finger and all the other things?
Yeah, I just want to say a few words from so-called, we have in Russia, JBS perspective, which is Joint Biometric System. Country goes to standardization of approach to biometrics. And for example, every user, every citizen, in the end, finally will have different options to use different biometric technologies, dealing with banks, dealing with social services, and for example, making payments, going to any governmental structures like the police, etc. And as experience showed and testing showed within Rostelecom, which is like governmental corporation, and also in connection with Ministry of Communications, the chief of JBS finally concluded that Hitachi vein technology, it was said officially, is the most secure, fast, and reliable technology they have available currently now. Of course, standardization and some activities which had been done and huge amount of money were spent for facial recognition and voice recognition. We see only gradual drift towards vein technology. Possibly we were a bit late coming to the market. It's not a positive moment, but we see interest. We have a number of pilots, and you know that, with different banks, and especially now when time changing and all banks, financial organizations, retail companies going to self-service format. Like even last exhibition we attended, Andy, you remember, our motto was bank of self-service banks, banks of self-service. It means that banks are shrinking their infrastructure, number of offices being cut because of realities, etc. Huge territory, and sometimes banks want to consume money and restructure, re-diversify their approach to identification, security, and other things. And your technology is really helping. For example, new technology, which is VeinID 5, as our analysis together with Kiwi Bank showed, for example, currently they're wasting $7 or $8 million only for SMS messages for verification. And if your technology will be alternative for that, it possibly will reduce expenses and will make it more secure and more fast and more reliable method of verification of users. I'm not talking about identification, because from identification point of view, finger vein is a really impressive technology. No other technologies except voice recognition can provide so large scale of biometric technology use. And we all keep in mind that the main thing is biometric factor of verification, which is vein, is hidden from fraud and other criminal activities. Almost. Yes, that's a good point. And this is nothing to add now for me.
Thank you. So I think that the next area I'd like to talk about a little bit with you guys is about some of the sort of questions we frequently get asked about biometrics and about finger vein and all of these nice things. So I think, first of all, Simon, I don't know how comfortable you'll be with this question, but could you talk a little bit about the common question we get asked is, what happens if somebody's biometric template did actually get stolen? Would they forever be never able to use biometrics again?
Yeah, thanks for that easy question. We normally get asked about what happens if someone chops your finger off. So that's
the next one, but I was saving that one for Shamit.
Okay, Shamit, you have some warning. I mean, there's a little bit of a description of the process. So you're not storing the physiological original template. You're sourcing an encrypted representation of that, which is frankly no use at all, where it can't be replayed back into the system. So you're constantly looking for it's an internal encrypted representation that only the system recognizes. So it can't be removed and dropped in the way that potentially other biometrics can. So there's I think there's a degree of explaining the level of encryption and the inherent security within the matching engine and the matching process that relaxes people. It's not we're never taking a physical representation of vein pattern and replaying it. We're encrypting it from the minute anything is scanned, or the second anything is scanned, and replaying it. And it's only one of these devices placed in the right network with the right security around it that can recognize that replayed encrypted template. So you're actually matching a template, you're not matching a physical biometric. And I think that reassures fairly quickly. If they wanted to go into more depth, then obviously you can go several layers down into that. But once that surface is understood, I think people get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think that's always the thing we find is people are often, they've heard this rumor that if they lose a password, it's easy to replace, but losing their biometric, it would be this catastrophe. And it's really not, because the systems don't work in that way. And I think that's absolutely key for people to understand. So, Shamit, you've had a few seconds because Simon padded for you there nicely. So, what happens if someone cuts your hand off?
Well, I actually got to build upon what Simon just said. So, on our side, what we've done is we've combined the finger vein scanner that Hitachi provides with smart card technology. So we've even gone even further to say that a criminal would have to be very, very clever to not just be able to reverse encrypt the vein pattern, but they need the SIM. There's a one-time PIN that we use right at the beginning. Then that's discarded on favor for the biometrics. There's also some software that we use as well. So we're trying to make it. I mean, I almost say 3-factor as opposed to 2-factor. We're definitely strong in 2-factor. But in a way, in the way we've designed the finger vein device and how it works with Barclays, it's almost going that one step further, which has been a key to kind of making sure that it's very secure. So your question is around if your finger gets cut off. So I like the fact that we've got liveness detection in the device as well. Basically, it means that for it to work, it needs blood flowing through the veins in your finger. If you, not to be blunt, but if you cut the finger off, then the veins collapse, and then there's no vein pattern to be read. So it simply cannot work. That's kind of like where we are. So
good. Yeah, good answer. Thank you.
I think the other one, Andy, if I could just jump in there as well, is the comparison with other biometrics. Maybe you'd come on with that, but it can't be acquired without your knowledge. There's lots of discussion around face, particularly in privacy law. And also, it is possible to lift a fingerprint from a glass, or even from a really good camera at distance can take and capture the print. So it's the internal nature of it as well that actually really reassures and provides a point of difference.
Yeah, I think that's an very important aspect, Simon, the fact that it can't be taken without someone's knowledge. And I think there's another aspect as well, Ravi, I don't know if you want to comment on this a little bit, is the fact that because VeinID is not used by law enforcement like fingerprints and facial and other things, do you think that offers some advantages to organisations looking for something that will make their consumers feel more comfortable?
It's a really good point, Andy. I think at an enterprise level, there's two aspects there. There's obviously usability, we've discussed a lot, and security, because with enterprise that goes hand in hand. And secondly, they don't want to be associated with biometrics that are used for particular purposes like law enforcement, crime, even national ID, because there's a difference in adoption of biometrics between enterprise and, let's say, government services in whatever format. Government services are normally mandated you have to use A and B. They may not be the best ones, but they may be there for historical reasons. Enterprise gets to choose the best of the best, and they get to choose what works in the best of the best criteria within their environment. And that's where an enterprise, if you look at the big deployments around the world today, for enterprise, use cases, it is mostly finger vein, because we have been very powerful in that area to be able to provide highly usable solutions with great security. And again, as an enterprise, Shamit, Simon, Vika can judge this. Those customers will have brilliant experts, good usability, market data, and they can say, well, this is what we want, rather than, where in a lot of government systems they're basing on historical data, or maybe not on a fairly level playing field. But this is where we have excelled quite well at enterprise level.
Okay, good. Maybe I think that's very, very true. The best of the best. I like that phrase. And I think, Vika, we've talked about the best of the best with the Ross Telecom JBS story where they talked about this was certainly the strongest biometric they've seen. But also, I think one of the areas that you and I have talked about is some of the slightly different use cases of biometrics away from what we've traditionally done. So obviously with Shamit and Simon, we talk very much about payments, but I think there's some other ideas that you had for access control and other systems as well. And I think with Beeline, we're talking about employee management, which is quite an interesting concept and a little bit different.
Indeed, not only employee. Currently, Beeline managing using your technologies, I mean, H1, not only time attendance and access control, not only authentication in access to, we call it one screen, like digital system, which shows workers' status under their access level. But also we managed to control stocks in warehouses, who is responsible and when shared some goods, something. And also within last 2 months, we managed to optimize their document system. And currently it's being used for digital signature of legal documents. So it means that within the company scope, your technology also covering very fast digital authorization methods, and all the procedures became faster. That means that after joining some purchase in other part, like you know this story with Euroset company, which was purchased by Beeline, they're going to integrate now, and we plan to purchase a few thousand devices more. What else? What is interesting? Currently testing of multi-thread driver, basically at the part of our software, also showing good results. It's more and more persuading us that we can provide it to high levels. We will never have any problems with the technology. It is absolutely reliable device. We have, within 2 years, we have only 12 devices in different cases defected or something. And we doubt if something happened with them. It's like reality. Talking about thousands of them, okay, like 3,000 or something. That means that experience can be shared with other companies. For example, banks, companies like other mobile operators like Tele2 or something, is mostly franchising company. Franchising means different standards. Lots of saloons, lots of parts, paying royalties, but having their own standards, and process of integration of all these shops and all these segmented systems means that they will have a better feedback, including financial feedback. And if we say a few words about reliability of the technology and security, we always hear things, problems with voice recognition, unfortunately, from the biggest banks here in Russia. And that's why we have more and more close dialogue with, for example, Sberbank or Alfa Bank, or like biggest financial structures, causing and expressing interest to the technology. So we do hope that finger vein technologies will be spread in our part of the world. We hope that it will help people and our countries to manage with financial security and other problems. And also what is good, possibly for everybody here, because this system is not, biometrics. We can talk. If we talk about biometrics, we talk about either it can be used for the police, for criminals, against criminals, something like that. This technology is a really civil system because it doesn't collect faces, it doesn't collect private information of people, which helps sometimes, because according to our legislation, it's quite tough in protecting people from spreading any information about them. So that's also good within this scope of legislation from that point of view. of course, that's what I wanted to say.
Good. Thank you, Vika. So there's a couple more areas I wanted to talk about. One is obviously we're all in the middle of the pandemic still, and it's all around us. So Shamit, I don't know whether you would have any thoughts on advantages or disadvantages of using our technology during the pandemic.
So my own personal experience, when I pop up to a supermarket and I have to take my mask off, or I have to basically put my PIN instead of using my Face ID or my fingerprint. Definitely advantage with your solution. In terms of our clients, we haven't had any feedback around that. The main thing they wanted is to make sure that they were able to securely receive the device and the accompanying SIM to their. Right now, we've got a lot of clients who are obviously, most of our clients, most of the colleagues are working from home, so they're having to order new devices and new SIMs and stuff. They want their main concern is to make sure that those arrive safely and securely, and the registration process is still secure. And the fact that we've combined a one-time PIN with the to be able to access the registration process for Finger Vein has made that easier to do. So no real kind of concerns on our side, fortunately, basically.
I guess the only other point I was thinking of with you guys is with people suddenly moving from working in an office environment to working from home, the readers that you're deploying with your customers are Bluetooth enabled, and the form factor is quite small, and it's quite easy to carry with people as they move around.
Yeah, that's the new device that we launched last year. No, definitely. They're definitely more portable now. So I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. Simon, I'm not sure you would have had much of an experience of this with our readers in your world, although I suppose your project in Manchester would very much fit into this.
Well, no, we were. I think it's fair to say we were kind of in the eye of the storm when hospitality and business sector shut down, because we were about to launch in the business district in Manchester in the spinning fields in a big prestigious building with a co-working space. We'd spent several months getting ready, and then we had to pull the launch at the last minute. We literally had staff trained and integrations done and the hardware on site. So it was a time to rethink and refocus, just in terms of commercially who's ready to innovate and who's out there. So I think there's probably two things to comment on, really. One is that we actually got involved directly with COVID with an Innovate UK COVID Challenge bid, which is UK government backed. We joined a consortium, including a professor from Manchester University, to take identity technology using Finger Vein into a care home as a pilot to support monitoring people going in and out of the care home. And that's live. It's up and running. Government funded. We participated, and that can be rolled out elsewhere. And that obviously continues. Healthcare is a very vulnerable, obviously, scenario with the profile of people being looked after. So we directly contributed. We also shifted away, I think, from payment more into identity. So we're supporting test and trace in Manchester. So obviously also, and I have another stall now with the government, central and regional government. But we're putting a test and trace system in, firstly a bar called the Alchemist, where you're visiting the bar, you just scan your finger. You don't need to go through writing down, leaving phone numbers, handwritten, or any QR codes. You just scan and it's done and it's captured, and the work is done in the back end by us. So that was a big leap forward, and we have had to change the way that we operate, and as I say, become more identity focused with payment as an add-on rather than anything else, which has opened up actually an enormous number of new possibilities. So yeah, you have to be. I mean, we're a relatively small business, so we can adapt very quickly and launch new products very quickly. So it's been potentially a huge negative, but we've just learned along the way. actually probably in a better place now than we were 6 months ago in terms of product roadmap.
Good. I think actually I wasn't aware of the care home one that you've done. I think that's really interesting.
That's breaking news, to be honest, but the press release is due to go out next week. So by the time this goes out, it'll be signed off. But yeah, we won that in May, and we're just announcing right now because it's actually going in right now.
So we'll talk about that offline because I think there's something we can do together on that as well.
Okay.
Some other applications. So, but I think that the track and trace one, you know, some of the local bars and restaurants around here, you turn up and everybody's signed in as M Mouse and D Duck, and you know, how's that going to help anybody? I think that the finger vein in that application of proving identity is something that is a really strong offering that we do, and something that's fundamental. And quite often we don't talk about that actually we're in the business of identifying a person and making sure it really is that person, and not the impersonator from Disney.
I mean, I could come back on that a little bit, Andy. You might find it interesting, and the rest of the guys. We worked on an age verification project as well. So anywhere in the UK under UK law, the only way to prove age previously was driving license or passport. We used the time when we weren't live in customers to get approval for age verification for VeinID, particularly the Finger Pay solution with our onboarding process, and that's a UK first. So the only way you can prove age without having to produce a physical document is your finger vein within the Finger Pay solution, and that opens up that means test and trace in a bar plus age verification. It also opens up some other fascinating use cases around in grocery around self-serve checkout. One of the slight hangovers of trading standards legislation is even if you're, you know, whatever, 50, 60, 70 years old, you want to use a self-serve checkout and buy one bottle of wine, you get stopped and someone has to come and swipe, and they may or may not check a document. So we're working to introduce the finger vein technology with age verification into those kind of use cases and getting some really good feedback. And so the other aspect of that is what the hospitality industry said to us is not only do we want age verification, but to your point about test and trace and how it's been managed, it was always a guideline. So anyone who did that on July the 4th, an individual giving a false name is not breaking a law. Yeah. And the business was issued a series of guidelines and they were encouraged to, and they were all kind of completely confused. The one other thing just to chuck in on this topic is COVID has forced adoption of new technology, but on a business level and a user level at a pace that hasn't happened before. It took 10 years for contactless to be adopted, but hospitality businesses are now switching very quickly to pay at table. The whole business is having to adopt it. The user flow, the general received wisdom that users will never change their behavior. Actually, they have done. They know that because the world's changed, they've got to change behavior really quickly. So It's kind of it's broken a few myths around will people adopt it. If they understand a new technology, they understand the benefit, they trust it, then they will do it on a mass scale within a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think that segues quite nicely to the next area I wanted to talk about, and I'd like Ravi to sort of talk a little bit about. We've talked very much about the physical readers that Hitachi have got, and the traditional technology that we've had for the last 15, 20 years. Ravi, would you be kind enough to talk about what comes next and some of the new products like VeinID 5 and how that might change the marketplace?
Sure. So as you put me on the spot, Andy, I'll do the sales pitch for you. But VeinID 5 is our B2C product. So we have now evolved the technology such. We've been working on it a couple of years, whereby you don't need any form of external device, any form of hardware to actually make the capture. You know, as we've been going through this journey, you know, our direction is always to remove the piece of this hardware to make it to use an environment which exists. So whether that be on your laptop or on your phone or anything with a camera, an iPad, etc. So we've launched the technology into the marketplace. We are right at the beginning of this journey. And basically what this does, it reads the vein pattern in your fingers just by presenting your hand to a standard desktop camera or, to your phone. So it reads those patterns, doesn't use anything else except for the standard onboard camera, standard processor, just using some super algorithms we put together in Japan and brought those to market. So we're launching it primarily in the space of password replacement and strong authentication. So that is what we're evolving in the next couple of years, and we're all quite proud of that. And
yeah, I think we're all very excited, aren't we? Very.
Indeed.
So, Vika, you and I have sat with some customers and we've shown them this. What do you think it does for the marketplace of biometrics and finger vein?
Yeah, for example, for financial markets, it's a real revolution, because currently, for example, most operations here are being done by mobile bank or bank client, sometimes by ordinary users. As I have said before, banks have to waste millions and millions of dollars for SMS messages and verification of users. In case if this technology goes and becomes spread, it's a real good consuming instrument of verification of users. Of course, it should cost money, but it will make. I do hope that it will make a real revolution in verification sphere for banks, for example. Current analysis from a couple of Russian banks like Sovest and Kiwi. Kiwi is quite, like PayPal in the West. It's like that. They use web instruments a lot, and people remit money. And in case if that instrument works, and relatively currently we see that it's a really vital necessity for them, because they have said financial system shrinking, banks diversifying, switching to self-service instruments from ATM digital, like machines printing bank cards, like we have here. It's printed by terminals. People can print cards by itself, not going to banks directly. Similar story with web applications. And if vein recognition technology goes to this format, I think it should be a really impressive thing.
Yeah, I know we had quite a long conversation with one of the banks about, whilst they could use the standard biometrics on a phone, they were a little bit afraid of the biometrics that exist on the phone, because they had no control to set their own checks and balances, and they were just really trusting what the phone manufacturer had chosen. So I think that's something we've seen. Shamit, you've seen the technology a little bit. I don't want to put you in a position where you're sort of telling us that you know, are you buying it or not buying it this week? But I wonder if you have some thoughts about potential applications for it that might be banking or might even be outside.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking from a banking point of view, I can definitely see the application. I like your last point, Andy, around the fact that whether companies want to trust the native biometrics installed on the phone, and that's obviously a hard point. I know, like one example is, all the technology I know about with the phones, you can install not just one biometric pattern, but maybe 2 or 3, which means that you could basically allow your kids to basically have access to your phone, and therefore your kids could have access to your banking application. So that's obviously an issue. So I see what I like the idea of having a native biometric built within the app, something that you can control as a company, and it's generic, independent of what device manufacturer model that the endpoint user is using, which is kind of where I'm looking at. I think from the Barclays point of view, you know, we're looking to build our mobile strategy and our mobile growth base, and I see this as being a key point, because ultimately, from the corporate banking point of view, we need to ensure that the security is still high. Considering we've been a desktop hardware security type bank for many years, and as well as pretty much all the other banks as well. So again, it comes back to that whole point where every kind of financial institution has to kind of decision around security and usability, and where their risk appetite lies. So yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Simon, I don't want to leave you out of the question, but I guess at the moment you've got a lot of things going on with the reader technology. Whether it's becomes something for you, I guess, is a longer conversation in the future.
I think I guess, given my role in the business is business development and sales, and driving that in the short term, we're very much focused on this generation of product. There's a long way. It works. It's not out there. There's a long way to go. So we're curious to watch how the VeinID 5 evolves, and whether we can use it as an additional factor in some use cases or not. I don't know. I mean, I think it's really, as we talked about at the beginning of the discussion, just general awareness of VeinID as a really high security biometric benefits the whole kind of ecosystem and all the partners. So we're watching with interest, but we'll stick with our product as it is just now.
And I guess that was going to be your answer, and I think that's smart, I guess, for a little bit. So I'm aware we've sort of taken up the sort of 45 minutes or so that we wanted to have for this discussion. I've covered pretty well everything I wanted to do. Is there anything anybody wanted to say before we wrap up?
I think for me, the key driver is pushing that demand. So we've talked about the public not being aware of the word finger vein. What I found as well over the last year or so, doing some client feedback or customer feedback, is a lot of people don't even know the word biometrics, right? So most people know the words. Yeah. I'm sure everyone's got an Android phone or an iPhone, right? So everyone knows the words Face ID, Finger ID, fingerprint recognition, facial recognition, or facial identity or finger identity. But the umbrella term biometrics, what I found is people don't understand that. And then when you then explain that to them, and they go, no, I know it. And then you start by starting the second chapter, which is around finger vein. They're like, hang on a minute, you lost me again, right? I thought you were talking about fingerprint or facial, that's been something that we've been trying to, in terms of trying to increase adoption within my area. It's all around the terminology and what we use, and trying to bring the terminology finger vein into the market in such a way that the public know it, as well as they know facial recognition, fingerprint recognition. So
and to be honest, Shami, that's exactly why we're all sitting here today. And the idea behind these videos that the guys have set up, it's about making the market aware of what's available, and making the and giving them a chance, and people like yourselves that are the cutting edge of this technology to explain why it's there and what it does and the benefits.
Completely. I mean, just to jump in on that as well. I mean, the more people are familiar with it, the more they feel comfortable with it. There's got to be that level of anxiety around anything new is understandable. There's an education job that needs to happen, but in a subtle and reassuring way. But to start with it, I mean, most people's starting point is they haven't even heard of it, particularly in a B2C context. So there is a big kind of marketing job and a big communications job to explain and reassure, and familiarity will build over time. But it gets crowded out, and it gets dominated by smartphone, because that's such a whatever, I think it's 80% of the population, certainly in the UK, have a smartphone, and all of those have some kind of biometric. So it's repositioning that actually biometrics exist outside of that and outside of law enforcement. And that's the challenge.
Definitely. Vika, was there anything you wanted to add?
I just want to say a few words as a company owner. I'm always afraid how technology will show itself on the market. I can tell you that currently more than 50,000 people using Hitachi vein technology in our country. I'm not afraid at all because it works perfect. It is really secure, and it is really impressive. And feedback for our customers are also impressive. What else? I would like to see your technology more in access control and security and time attendance markets, like wall readers and all these technologies, because currently we have a real vital necessity in demand. For example, you know, Andy, we have joint project with Rosatom, which is huge corporation here, energy, and also high-tech corporation. They make neutrino engines. It's boom, like very impressive thing. But that you're more concentrated in identification and verification office standard market. It would be nice to have you in access control, and we work on this point. We hope we together we achieve certain level at this point. And that's it. I just have nothing to say.
Thank you.
Great.
No, Vika, thank you. Ravi, would you like to wrap things up for us a little bit?
That's very kind. I mean, I think first, thank you for everybody, you know, for your input and your comments, and you know, a lot of you, I've known for some time, and we've come on a great journey together. And I've got to say thank you to the Innovator guys who's given us your trust. We now have fully fledged deployed solutions in your regions and your enterprises. And, you know, Hitachi stands by its brand and its quality. But, you know, this is just the beginning for all of us. There's a lot more to come. I say we're just on the crest of the wave. You know, we have lots of exciting things coming in the next few years. And, you know, again, thanks for coming on the journey. And Andy, thank you for arranging this really good exchange of views. It's a very dynamic and you know, on-point way of sharing experiences right now while we're all sort of locked up at home in prison. So it does make you feel better about yourself as well. So thanks everyone.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to say thank you. I think it's been great. I think all the input and feedback has been, really insightful and really interesting.